Hamas confirms top commander's death in Israeli strike in Gaza. And also at least 16 killed in Australia Bondi Beach shooting. Salam Lisavdani, I'm Brendan Lepal. Hamas's Gaza chief Khalil al-Hayya confirmed on Sunday the killing of the group's senior commander Ra'id Said in an Israeli strike a day earlier. It was the highest profile assassination of a senior Hamas figure since the Gaza ceasefire deal came into effect in October.
وفي ظل هذه الظروف واستمرار الخروقات الإسرائيلية للاتفاق وإعاقة المساعدات ومواصلة التدمير والقتل والاغتيالات والتي كان آخرها بالأمس باستهداف القائد المجاهد رائد سعد وإخوانه، وأمام هذا السلوك الصهيوني الذي يهدد بقاء الاتفاق صامدا، فإننا ندعو الوسطاء وخاصة الضامن الأساسي الإدارة الأمريكية والرئيس ترامب بضرورة العمل على إلزام الاحتلال باحترام الاتفاق والالتزام بتنفيذه وعدم تعريضه للانهيار.
In a joint statement, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Israel Katz said on Saturday, Said was targeted in response to an attack by Hamas in which an explosive device injured 2 soldiers earlier on Saturday. A tragic and deeply saddening incident. At least 16 people, including a 10-year-old girl, were shot dead in an attack at Sydney's Bondi Beach after a father and son pair, armed with long-barreled guns, opened fire. A police statement said that 14 people died at the scene and 2 others died in hospital. The deceased range in age from 10 to 87 years old and includes one of the attackers.
And say that we are not looking for a further offender. We are satisfied that there were 2 offenders involved in yesterday's incident. One is deceased. The second is in critical but stable condition in hospital at the moment.
The shooting occurred at around 6:47 p.m. local time on Sunday when the 2 men opened fire on a crowd of at least 1,000 people who gathered at the beach for an event celebrating the first day of the Jewish festival of Hanukkah. Meanwhile, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said the attack was an act of pure evil and Australia will do whatever is necessary to stamp out anti-Semitism.
It was an act of pure evil, an act of anti-Semitism, an act of terrorism on our shores in an iconic Australian location, Bondi Beach, that is associated with joy, associated with families gathering, associated with celebrations, and it is forever tarnished. All Australians wrap our arms around them and say, we stand with you.
It marks Australia's most deadly mass shooting since 35 people were killed at Port Arthur in the island state of Tasmania in 1996, which prompted fundamental changes to Australia's gun ownership laws. New South Wales Premier Chris Minns said on Monday the state will review firearm laws and the police response after a mass shooting at Sydney's Bondi Beach that left 16 people dead, including one of the alleged shooters.
I think it's time that we have a change to the law in relation to the firearms legislation in New South Wales, but I'm not ready to announce it today. We want to make sure that prospective reform and change in New South Wales has a lasting impact, but it's not the last time I'll be mentioning it, and you can expect action soon.
Minns also promised an independent investigation into the attack and emergency response. Mass shootings are rare in Australia, one of the world's safest countries. Following the incident in Sydney, Prime Minister Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim extended his heartfelt condolences to the families of the victims of the violent attack in Sydney and wished those injured a swift and full recovery. In a Facebook post, the Prime Minister said that he was deeply alarmed by the attack, which claimed innocent lives and left many others injured, and condemned the act in the strongest terms. He said there can be no justification for violence directed at civilians, particularly attacks that single out people based on race or religion, adding that such acts have no basis in any faith or belief. Dato Sri Anwar said Malaysia stood in firm solidarity with the people and government of Australia at this difficult time and fully supported all efforts to ensure those responsible were identified and brought to justice in accordance with the law. Providence Police have detained a person of interest in connection with the Brown University shooting that left 2 students dead and another 9 people wounded at the US Ivy League school. Providence Mayor Brad Smiley announced that a person was being held in connection with the shooting and that shelter-in-place orders have been lifted.
I want to let the Providence community know that effective immediately, we are lifting the shelter in place for Brown and the related area. I'll note on just an update on the individuals who are recovering at Rhode Island Hospital. There remain 7 individuals in stable condition, 1 in critical but stable condition, and 1 has been discharged.
Separately, police chief said his department would be working to solidify the case before more information about the suspect would be released. More than 400 law enforcement personnel were deployed on Saturday as police sought a suspect to enter the building where students were taking exams with a firearm. The Providence University said that police officers remain in areas still considered an active crime scene. Access to parts of the campus remain restricted as police maintain a security perimeter around Minden Hall and nearby apartment buildings. Syria has arrested 5 people suspected of having links to the shooting of US and Syrian troops in the central Syrian town of Palmyra on Saturday. 2 US Army soldiers and a civilian interpreter were killed by an attacker who targeted a convoy of American and Syrian forces before being shot dead. The Syrian Interior Ministry has described the attacker as a member of Syrian security forces suspected of sympathizing with Daesh. Syria's Interior Ministry said in a statement the units carried out a precise and decisive security operation in the city of Palmyra, following a cowardly terrorist attack carried out yesterday by an individual affiliated with the terrorist group. Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara on Sunday sent a message of condolences to his US counterpart Donald Trump, expressing his country's solidarity with the victims' families. The attack was barely a month after Syria announced it had signed a political cooperation agreement with the US-led coalition against Daesh, which coincided with Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara's visit to the White House. At least 16 people were killed on Sunday when a bus carrying school children plunged into a ravine in Colombia. The youths were on a field trip when the accident occurred. Over 20 people have been injured and the entire hospital network has been activated to attend to and support this emergency. The governor reported that 16 people had died, that the students were 11th graders and there were 45 people on the bus.
Celebraban su graduación y se dirigían desde Sucre, las playas de Sucre, al municipio de Bello, del liceo antioqueño de esta localidad. Sufrieron un accidente en zona rural de Remedios, Antioquia. A la fecha tenemos más de una docena de ellos que infortunadamente perdieron la vida y más de 20 personas heridas.
The bus fell about 80 meters into the ravine and that the cause of the crash was under investigation. Latin American countries' road authorities stated that Colombia recorded an average of 22 daily deaths from traffic accidents in 2024. And coming up, Hong Kong's last opposition party votes to disband under China pressure. Stay tuned.
Menggosok baju sekaligus boleh menjimatkan elektrik.
Hong Kong's last major opposition party disbanded on Sunday after a vote by its members, the culmination of Chinese pressure on the city's remaining liberal voices in a years-long security crackdown. Chairman Loh Kin Hei said after an extraordinary general meeting of 121 votes cast, 117 voted to disband, while 4 abstained. The Democratic Party has been Hong Kong's flagship opposition since its founding 3 years before the financial hub's return to Chinese rule from Britain in 1997. It used to sweep citywide legislative elections and push China on democratic reforms and upholding freedom.
After weathering 30 years of storms, the Democratic Party has come to the moment when the full stop must be written. Yet we believe that the convictions and perseverance of these 3 decades will leave their mark on Hong Kong's history. In the days to come, may you hold kindness, honesty, integrity in your hearts. Strive to live each day well and take good care of yourselves and those around you. It has always been our belief that Hong Kong's most precious treasure is its people who love this place. It is you, every Hong Konger, who makes Hong Kong shine. We wish peace for Hong Kong and for every Hong Konger. Take care and farewell.
Senior Democratic Party members Wu Chi-wai, Albert Ho, Helena Wong and Lam Siok Ting have been jailed or held in custody under a national security law that China imposed in 2020 in response to mass pro-democracy protests the year before. West African Regional Bloc ECOWAS on Sunday threatened targeted sanctions on anyone obstructing Guinea-Bissau's return to civilian rule following last month's coup. The bloc also rejected a transition program announced by the country's military rulers. Army officers in Guinea-Bissau, branding themselves the Military High Command, toppled President Umaro Sissoco Embalo on 26 November and installed Major General as interim president the following day.
The authority rejects the transition program as recently announced by the military leadership in Guinea-Bissau, and the authority calls for a swift restoration of constitutional order. More specifically, the authority calls for the immediate release of all political detainees in Guinea-Bissau.
ECOWAS said that elections held on 23rd November were deemed free and transparent by its own observers, the African Union and the Community of Portuguese language countries. Big Japanese manufacturers' business sentiment hit a 4-year high in the 3 months to December. Central banks survey on Monday suggested that the economy was weathering the hit from higher U.S. tariffs. The outcome reinforces market expectations the Bank of Japan will raise interest rates at its 2-day policy meeting ending on Friday. The headline index measuring big manufacturers' business confidence stood at plus 15 in December, up from plus 14 in September, and matching a median market forecast. The reading, which marked the third straight quarter of improvement, was the highest since December 2021. An index gauging big non-manufacturer sentiment stood at plus 34 in December, unchanged from the September reading. Big companies expect to increase capital expenditure by 12.6% in the current fiscal year, ending in March 2026. Japan's economy shrank in the 3 months to September as exports fell in the face of U.S. tariffs. However, analysts expect growth to rebound in the current quarter as exports and factory output show signs of recovery. With inflation exceeding its 2% target for well over 3 years and price rises broadening, the BOJ is widely expected to keep interest rates to 0.75% from 0.5% this week. Investors eyeing SpaceX potential blockbuster IPO may need to brace themselves as Chief Executive Officer Elon Musk balances his risky quest to reach Mars with growing the revenue-rich Starlink satellite broadband business that would offer more reliable shareholder returns. SpaceX, which transforms space travel with reusable rockets and built a global satellite broadband network, is targeting a listing next year that could raise more than $25 billion at a valuation exceeding $1 trillion, which would rank among the largest initial public offerings in history. Investors have welcomed the SpaceX IPO. However, the industry analysts say any buyer of SpaceX shares would need to accept that it has always invested billions of dollars in risky ventures, some of which, like Starlink and the Falcon 9 reusable rocket, have paid off after lengthy periods of experimentation. Some analysts even question SpaceX's lofty valuation, which assumes meteoric growth from current annual revenue of $15 billion, despite uncertainty over the market size for satellite-to-cell services and the feasibility of space-based data centers. A SpaceX IPO would help fund Musk's latest ambitious deploy data centers in space. The death toll from floods triggered by the overflow of a river in Bolivia's eastern region of Santa Cruz rose to 7, with at least 20 people reported missing and hundreds of families left without shelter. Its president, Rodrigo Paz, criticized past administrations for leaving the state without sufficient resources to respond to emergencies.
No sé qué le pasaba a las anteriores autoridades. El no tenerle cariño a la patria es dejarnos tan indefensos con un Estado que hoy día apenas puede movilizar 3 helicópteros. O la abundancia de helicópteros que hemos tenido históricamente y hoy día nos dejaron sin presupuesto, sin repuestos, y estamos haciendo los milagros correspondientes para no dejar a nuestra población indefensa.
Authorities warn that heavy rains are expected to continue in the coming days, exacerbated by the combined effects of El Niño and La Niña, which Paz describes as producing record precipitation not seen in more than a century. President Paz met with experts, his cabinet and weather scientists on Sunday to make an assessment on the situation. He also pointed to widespread deforestation over the past 2 decades as a factor worsening the floods. Bolivia lost 10.4 million hectares to the fire in 2014, the worst wildfire crisis in its history. Flash flooding caused by sudden heavy rain killed at least 21 people in the Moroccan coastal town of Safi on Sunday. A torrent of muddy water sweeping cars and rubbish bins from the streets in Safi, which sits around 300 kilometers south of the capital, Rabat. According to authorities, at least 70 homes and businesses in the historic old city were flooded. Another 32 people were injured and taken to hospital, but most of them have been discharged. Damage to roads cut off traffic along several routes to and from the port city on the Atlantic coast. By evening, The water level had receded, leaving people to pick through a mud-sodden landscape to salvage belongings. Severe weather and flooding are not uncommon in Morocco, which is struggling with a severe drought for the 7th consecutive year. Moroccan autumns are typically marked by a gradual drop in temperatures by climate change has affected weather patterns and made storms more intense. This is because a warmer atmosphere holds more moisture, and warmer seas can turbocharge the systems. And in sports, Nur Shafika ends Malaysia's Silat gold drought with maiden victory. Stay tuned.
Sukan Si Thailand 2025. Segala aksi, pencapaian, detik-detik kemenangan.
Tanungkan dari Suria.
Dan kemas kini semasa, kutipan pingat keseluruhan terus dibawakan untuk anda sepanjang 10 hingga 19 Disember dalam Laporan Harian Pagi, 10 pagi, Laporan Harian Petang, 3 petang, Laporan Harian Malam, 8 malam, serta Sorotan Harian 11.30 minit malam di saluran OK dan Sukan RTM.
Indonesia masih lagi mengawal permainan. Kandas, naik untuk melakukan blocking, jaringan penyama daripada Malaysia.
Juga boleh disaksikan secara penstreaman langsung di RTM Click.
We begin with updates from the SEA Games Thailand 2025. National athletes delivered an impressive performance yesterday, clinching 4 gold medals, effectively ending a long wait for success at the biennial games. At the Nakhon Pathom Gymnasium in Chonburi, the men's team sepak takraw squad ended a 34-year gold drought in the event after defeating hosts Thailand. The first Ragu, featuring Haziq Hairul Nizam, Muhammad Nuraiza Nordin and Amirul Zazwan Amir, narrowly lost to the Thai trio of Pontep Ting Panbon, Putawan Sopa and Marukin Panmakon. However, the setback did not dampen the national team's spirit, instead sparking a strong comeback by the second Ragu. The trio of Shahir Rosdi, Azlan Alias and Farhan Adam produced a fearless display to overcome Siriwat Saka, Tawisak Tongsai and Rachan Vipan, levelling the score at 1-1 and forcing the match into a deciding tie. In the third Ragu, Zulkifli Raza, Afifuddin Razali and Aidil Aiman Azwawi showed remarkable composure to defeat Kritna Sanapong Non-Takot, Varayud Jantarasena and Wutinun Kamsanor. The last time Malaysia won gold in this event was at the 1991 SEA Games in Manila. Meanwhile, national head coach Ahmad Jais Baharun described the success of the men's squad as the most meaningful moment of his coaching career.
Alhamdulillah, satu momen yang cukup berharga bagi saya sebenarnya. Sebab sebelum ini kita menang bagi acara berpasukan pada tahun 1991. Kali ini kita menang pada tahun 2025 di bumi Thailand sendiri. Dan ini merupakan satu pencapaian yang bagi saya cukup mengharukan.
The National Puncak Silat Camp also made history by ending a 20-year gold drought in the women's solo event. The achievement came through an outstanding performance by Nur Shafika Hamzah, who defeated a Brunei exponent in the final. Competing at the Impact Arena in Muang Thong Thani, Shafika scored 9.960 points to edge Nur Wasika Azima Rozihan, who finished with 9.920 points. The victory ended Malaysia's long wait for gold in the women's solo event, with Suzy Sulaiman having delivered the last gold at the 2005 Games in the Philippines. Meanwhile, Shafika credited her success in Bangkok to strong emotional control and sharp focus in the arena.
Dan pasti memang saya gembira lah dengan kejayaan ini. Sebab dah ni edisi yang keempat. Maksudnya ini SEA Games saya yang keempat untuk Sukan SEA. So memang saya sangat bersyukur dan sangat.
Despite having to go through the qualification round alone without the presence of his coach, national shooter Jonathan Wong found his way back to the top by clinching the men's 10 meters air pistol gold medal at the 2025 SEA Games yesterday. Jonathan overcame a tense start before displaying the calmness that defines him, finishing the final with 237.8 points to edge out the Philippines' Michael Angelo Fernandez, who scored 236.1 points. The bronze medal went to Indonesia's Aulia Sultanul Maruf with 213.1 points. The gold medalists at the Kuala Lumpur 2017 and Hanoi 2021 SEA Games admitted that he had to manage the pressure, expectations and self-doubt on his own. The coach Firdaus Rahim returned to help him fine-tune his technique and, more importantly, stabilize his emotions. Later, Jonathan remained composed at the decisive moment, successfully holding off a late surge from Fernandez in a final decided by just 1.7 points. He is no longer labelled a rising star, as Jonathan is now a benchmark for other shooters. Moving on to football, Manchester City thumped Crystal Palace 3-0 on Sunday to move back to within 2 points of Premier League leaders Arsenal, as Aston Villa kept up their surprise title charge. Arsenal, who have set the pace this season, squeaked home on Saturday with a 2-1 win against bottom club Wolves, thanks to 2 own goals. Pep Guardiola's men braced for a tough task at Selhurst Park against high-flying Palace and had to withstand pressure from the home side. Oliver Glasner's Palace, who beat City in last season's FA Cup final, squandered their chances in the first half. Haaland was a largely peripheral figure but came alive shortly before half-time to give City the lead. Palace again started the second half brightly, but it was Phil Foden who found the net to double the lead. City added gloss to the scoreline when Haaland thundered a penalty past Henderson after Savinho was taken down by the goalkeeper following a surging run late in the game. The Arsenal win put the pressure back on City, who have been showing ominous signs that they are finding their feet in recent weeks. Football fans in India's western city of Mumbai welcome Lionel Messi at the Wankhede Stadium on Sunday as the legend continued his GOAT, greatest of all time, India tour. Several Indian celebrities were at the stadium for Messi's appearance, including cricketing legend Sachin Tendulkar.
Today, having all 3 of them here is indeed a golden moment for Mumbai, Mumbaikars and India. The way you have received all 3 greats of the game has truly been remarkable.
Messi's Inter-Miami club teammates Rodrigo de Paul and Luis Suarez joined the icon on the pitch as the trio waved to fans, played some passing games and kicked a few balls into the stands as souvenirs for fans. The first leg of Messi's tour kicked off chaotically on Saturday with disgruntled fans ripping up seats, throwing objects and invading the pitch at the stadium in Kolkata after his brief appearance, voicing their anger at organisers. That's it from us this afternoon. Our top story, at least 16 killed in Australia Bondi Beach shooting. Malaysia Tonight comes on at 8:30 p.m. this evening on TV1 and My TV's Berita RTM news channel. Till then, I'm Brendan Paul. Thanks for watching and take care.